Energy NASCAR Cup Series media availability. We're joined by 7-time champion Jimmie Johnson, driver of the number 48 Lowe's Chevrolet for Hendrick Motorsports. Jimmie, after an adventurous Talladega, you now are living on the edge coming in the Kansas Speedway. What do you draw from your past experience to help you deal with the playoff pressure that you have this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough position to be in. In some ways, that crash also impacted other guys that I need to be concerned with. So, it kind of is what it is. We did fall a few spots in the points, but thankfully we did score points in both of those opening stages. I look back on Talladega, and I think we all know and feel like there's going to be a big one. And I think there's only 6 running at the end, so there's only a few people that actually made it through to see the checkered flag at all, which isn't unexpected. But coming here, it's been a great track for us. We've had a ton of speed here. I think back to this spring, and how many cars that we passed through the course of the day. We'll have a great performance here, and we're going to need to have a great day. It'd be great to get back to victory lane, get that momentum going in the right direction. But more than anything, we want to make sure that we advance and get to that next round of 8.
Okay, we'll open the floor for questions. We'll start with Claire, go to Holly, then to Bob.
Claire B. Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. Everybody's debating and talking about and calling in to talk about what's Jimmie thinking, how is he, how's the team. Are you frustrated? Are you stressed out? You've won so many championships that you seem to be the kind of guy that would be able to kind of hold it together going into a cutoff race. But I also know you're hard on yourself. Can't assume anything because that's what drives you. So how are you feeling headed into this weekend?
It's honestly everything. I mean, during the week, it's easy to get frustrated at the start of the week, reliving what happened. But we're a team and a group that thrives on adversity. Whenever we've been backed into a corner, we've always stepped up and have delivered. And we, all the members of this 48 team, love a challenge, and we're not even close to losing that desire and that fight to be out there and compete and race for the win and race for the championship. So, depending on the moment in time, sure, frustration, pressure, stress, all those things run through us. But that's part of pro sports, and the position I'm in, chasing my 8th championship, and the desire I have to be competitive week in and week out and be part of that Final Four. The same for my team. It's as high as it's ever been. We really want to be there. It's been a tough year in some respects. The speed department's been a little tough on us. I think we've been frustrated through the summer months, and that yielded poor results. And we really seem to be on the right track here the last few weeks in running competitive and collecting points, which is important.
We'll go to Holly, then to Bob, then to Lee, then to Reed.
Holly Kane, NASCAR.com. I'm wondering if you could just address, there's several champions here on that cutoff with you and Kyle Busch needing to get in and Matt Kenseth trying to get in, and you're all fairly close in points. If you could just talk about that dynamic. I mean, this is a very talented, accomplished group that is on the verge and really needs to, have a great weekend. Yeah,
it really is challenging. I mean, and then you think of this track and the speed that the Gibbs cars have had. It's been a great track for Matt and Kyle both. I could go out there and put myself in a nice position in the points and maintain this 8th place on the bubble, and Matt or Kyle wins and shifts that whole thing down. So it's going to be a challenging weekend. We need to hit the track with the mindset of winning, largely because the two, speaking of Matt and Kyle, those guys are both capable of winning here and shifting the points all around.
Bob
Parker, ESPN. Throughout this elimination format, you've had Dover where piece breaks and you're out. You win at Homestead when maybe you're not the best car. Is there any less pressure now than when this format was first introduced because of maybe you have more of a sense of the roll of the dice aspect, or just, you can only do so much in 3 races?
Yeah, it is much more circumstantial now than before, when you had a 10-race chase to worry about, or the entire season. There was a different flow to it. Now it's, you've got to stay alive and move to the next round, and then within that round of races or Homestead itself, there's just so much that can change. It's all circumstances. So, I think that gives us some optimism. We haven't had the exact year that we've wanted. The 78 has really kind of been in control of the year, and I think we're all jealous of the situation those guys are in. But I keep telling myself, what happened last year. We have to make the Final Four, and then in Homestead, who knows what will happen in that race, and last year's proof of that.
Lee, go ahead.
Lee Spencer, motorsport.com. You joke about, taking the kids to lunch the other day from the racetrack, or Hendrick or wherever you guys were. But that being said, after seeing the direction that Toyota took by really beefing up their recruitment process and getting these drivers ready, did Hendrick kind of feel they were put in a situation where they really had to start thinking about the future and what that roster might look like?
I haven't heard or seen a concerted effort on that front. When I think of, or any conversations I've been a part of, on that front, we kind of thought Dale would still be here, and then he made his announcement midway through the year. So it's not the focus of the team, and we have watched the Gibbs guys develop crew members and drivers. You even look at Kyle's race team that he owns and how he's been able to identify and find these young guys and bring them along, which is a very impressive kind of focus that whole group has, and I think it's benefited them really well. Hendrick Motorsports has had a driver development program in years past, and it just didn't work out as we had hoped, and took a lot more time and effort than we were really able to give. The junior motorsports relationship for us has kind of helped fill that to a certain degree, but I think that Gibbs / Toyota, and I don't exactly know who's largely responsible for it, but the combination of their focus there, it's impressive what they've done. Like it or not, they've done a really nice job with it. We're in a position, I think, where it's just circumstances and young guys are surrounding me. Chase has been on an arc to move in through our JRM system. Alex now called up, and then the opportunity to put William in. So we have some young guys, and I think what I was trying to get to in the beginning of my long-winded comment here was Rick has always been very good at finding young talent. You look through the years, and he's been able to do it. So I think Rick enjoys the process of finding one person, but setting up the full development program has been something that he's not overly excited to do and has spent a lot of time on. Yep.
Reed, go ahead.
Reed Spencer with NASCAR Wire Service. Throughout the elimination playoffs so far this year, we've seen that stage points are very important, and they have actually carried people forward who wouldn't otherwise be there. Qualifying well, as Kyle and Martin Truex have shown, certainly helps you get stage points. Have you got anything special planned for qualifying emphasis this week? And if not, do you think you're going to have to use strategy to try to get some stage points, given the fact that Kyle's the guy behind you?
Yeah, strategy's tough to put into place when you have these short segments that we do. So it really does fall back on qualifying, and it hasn't been a strong suit of mine, and over the last couple of years it slipped even more. This year we knew before the season ever started that the importance for qualifying well is going to ratchet up and be 2 to 3 times more important, essentially. Even with all that awareness and the thought process and attempts to raise our qualifying performance, we haven't yet. And we're looking at every option possible. So again, here this weekend, I personally am trying to find the right rhythm that's needed out there on the track to put up that lap time. And through practice and the 3 rounds of qualifying, at some point, I can sneak the speed out of the car and post a good lap. And for whatever reason, trying to back that up or do it lap after lap, just haven't been able to pull that off. If it's track conditions changing, over adjusting, over driving, whatever it might be, there really isn't a clear answer. So we've spent a lot of time focusing on it, and we're almost to a point now where we overthought it. Are we slowing ourselves down from overthinking it in some regards? So we're aware and trying hard, and have been trying hard to get that right. Hopefully we get it. It's going to be really important to get it.
Jerry, go ahead.
Jerry Jordan, KickingTheTires.net and Performance Racing Network. Jimmy, the past couple of weeks have been kind of interesting on the pit road for you. But usually your pit crew or your spotter with what happened last week. Does any of that happen to bother you at all coming into this week, being a cutoff race? Do you know what kind of discussion Chad had with the crew going ahead of the game here?
Yeah, I mean, there's lessons learned in everything, and when I think of the Charlotte pit stop itself, and I think of Talladega and the mistake there that Earl made, and really all mistakes come from guys trying as hard as they can. And I personally have sympathy for that. You know, I mean, the guys are just trying to do the best job they can, and everybody makes mistakes. I mean, I make plenty of them, and I think Fridays show that on a regular basis. So it's hard for me to jump on somebody over that. You know, what I ask of myself is to learn from those lessons and try not to repeat them, and I know that, you know, my teammates do the same thing. So, you know, last week at Talladega, there's definitely a lesson in that, and just to make light of it a little bit, you know, the process of the flag being withdrawn and the lead-in and NASCAR's communication to the teams to start engines and all that. I think we took for granted how fast our crew members are, and that they were so queued up and ready, and literally in, it seemed like 3 seconds time, maybe even less. Oh, gosh, it was actually less. The lug nuts are off, and we're in trouble. We're in violation. Like, it just happened so fast, and it came from a good place. Unfortunately, it was a mistake, and we'll try to clean that up. But you know, it came from a good place.
We'll go to Dustin in the middle.
Dustin Long, NBC Sports. A couple things. One, obviously, you've said in the past that these tracks in the playoffs all set up very well for you, and you've won at least one race every year in the Chase playoff format. So how do you not get overly frustrated that you or your team gets overly frustrated with the performance and the situation that you're in? Because for years you've always said these all set up perfectly for you guys, and it's not working out. And my second question is, I know you talked about the importance of qualifying. The pit selection for next week at Martinsville is based off of qualifying today. So how much more does that add to it, with especially for somebody like you, if you advance, what that can do for you next week?
Yeah, actually, I might have to have you repeat your first one. But the second question for Martinsville, yeah, this is huge. We all know how important that first pit box is. I've won plenty. I think I maybe won one or two from that first pit box, but I know it's really useful and helpful when you have it. And the few times I have been in that pit box, I mean, you just need an okay pit stop and you roll off ahead of everybody. I mean, it's a big advantage, and everybody's aware of that. You know, that today counts for that pit box. So it does put a premium on today's efforts, and I know it's not a double points day, but it's a double something day for sure. Now, the first question, can you go through that again?
You know, you've said in the past these tracks all line up well, and you've had success and won every year in the Chase playoff format in this stretch. Now that you haven't, how do you not let that frustration for you or even for your team, because the expectation is Jimmie Johnson's going to win a race, Jimmie Johnson's going to do this, and now you're in this position of, you know, there's some questions, or
Sure.
if nothing else, there's doubt. And obviously when there's doubt, that can seep in and create other issues.
Yeah, expectations are an interesting thing. I mean, you know, what we live and experience within the team is usually different than the outside expectations. So we're very focused on our jobs, and if we stop and pull back and think as maybe the big collective group does, we could get caught up in that and potentially go down the road of, as you pointed out, 10 best tracks, you know, pressure to win a race, and so forth and so on. As a general statement, we want to win every race. You know, we show up at every track with the intention to win. We know that we're capable of it. Some weeks are more challenging than others. We're very optimistic for here based on the past, you know, handful of races and our speed. So we have all that with us. You know, but at the same time, as that, you know, talking about those things, as that all goes on, your, you know, the topic of doubt, the topic of, you know, the psychology between the team and the driver and the race weekend itself, we usually spend the majority of our days and weeks doubting what we do. I mean, that just kind of comes with the territory. We're always experimenting with new setups in the cars. So, you know, in some ways, the season kind of goes by quickly, and you're like, dang, I haven't won, you know, myself, I haven't won since Dover. It's been a long time. You know, we've been through a couple good tracks, and it's amazing how fast time goes by because you're so caught up in the moment and trying to find your way through and make your cars fast. So expectations, they are high. You know, we feel like we've been playing a little catch up through the course of the year. You know, so we're managing, I guess, probably the best way to do it, trying to manage the emotions. We know we won't execute well if we're overly frustrated. You know, so we're just trying to manage all of that and move forward. time, experience, you know, and different stages of trying to manage the frustration. I think that the collective group can maybe limit or hinder the growth in trying to find the solution. Where we're at right now, and the openness and the talking, the discussions, the way we're all working with each other, I think we've definitely hit the bottom side for ourselves this year, and are in a very good place to kind of grow and end up where we want to. I mean, I really do feel that we're heading in the right directions in a lot of ways. The car is kind of the car with the speed, but through a summer of trying to find big chunks of speed, you know, we're in a spot now where we feel pretty good about the foundation of our setups. We just got to go race. You know, people make mistakes. We just have to go out there and finish where we're supposed to. And if somebody gives us a chance, man, we got to knock it out of the park then.
Sorry, guys, due to time, we got to wrap up. Jimmie, thanks for the time.
Okay, thank you.